about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Now looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Hello there, and good evening, and welcome to our latest AQA A-Level Sociology live stream, our regular Wednesday evening slot. I'm Duncan, and with me, as always, is Craig. Hello, Craig. How are you doing?
Hi, Duncan. Yeah,
Hi.
good.
Very good. And this evening, we've been doing lots of sessions on crime and deviance over the last few weeks this term, and we've got another crime and deviance session for you tonight. I think it's our penultimate crime and deviance session, and then we'll do a Christmas special before the Christmas holidays. And we're looking at globalization and crime this evening, which is an interesting topic, and one that students sometimes find a little bit daunting. So lots of activities today. I can see there are lots of people joining us live, and so if you are joining us live, you can type into the live chat window with any answers to the activities that we've got tonight, and indeed any questions that you might have for Craig or myself, and we'll do our best to answer them. If you are watching on catch up, and we know from all our other sessions that many hundreds of you watch it after the live show. Obviously, you can't join in the live chat window, but you've got the opportunity to potentially pause your video, have a bit more time over some of the questions, and you're very welcome too. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the PowerPoint now, and I think we're starting with Craig with a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 activity.
We are. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. What we are going to look at first of all is we're going to look at the process of globalization and how it changes different types of crime. We're going to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For those of you who haven't haven't joined us for a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before, what we do is we put up the numbers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you have to name 5 of something, 4 of something else, 3 of something, 2 of something, 1 of something. So, and you have 2 minutes in order to answer those questions. So, what you would do is you would put your answer in the chat window on the right-hand side. So, what we're looking for inside of 2 minutes are 5 crimes that have increased as a result of globalization, 4 types of state crime, 3 types of green crime, 2 types of financial crime, and 1 type of cyber crime. There may be a little bit of a hint towards the 5 types of crime located in there, but that's what you do. So you've got 2 minutes, and we'll start now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Got an answer in from Claudia.
Responses coming through. Human trafficking, drugs trafficking, I'm assuming, hacking, identity fraud, green crime, good responses there. 4 types of state crime.
We've also had environmental crime. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2 types of financial crime. We've got fraud, drug trafficking, people smuggling, ID theft, counterfeit goods. That's a good one as well. Counterfeit goods.
Yeah, well done, Nimfrendo. 3 types of green crime from Claudia.
Yeah, pollution, dumping of toxic waste, gas leaks. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. Not necessarily gas leaks, but certainly pollution.
Yeah.
Anyone got a guess on state crimes or financial crimes? We've had an example of cybercrime in there as well. Multinational tax evasion, yeah. Although they would probably call it avoidance rather than evasion. It's a very slight difference.
We've got hacking. Yeah, it's a good example of cybercrime. What about state crimes before the time runs out? Oh, here we go.
Okay, here we go. Unlawful imprisonment, genocide, limitation of human rights and state hacking. Okay, yeah.
5.
So you can see some of the accusations, particularly within elections in 2016.
1.
Laundering and tax evasion. Yeah, good examples of financial crime.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's look at those responses then. I did go with sort of like the 5 types of crimes that have increased as a result of globalization. Didn't name specific crimes, but more like bands of crime, if you like. So organized crime, financial crime, cyber crime, corporate crime, green crime. So it was a little bit of a hint there, but some great answers.
Yeah, really good.
Through on the different types
for every question, actually, haven't we? Yeah, we had some good ones.
Yeah,
for every question.
Layla's come up with some of us here. Layla's obviously come up with quite a few different responses there for different questions. Mostly, I would say, pretty much spot on as well. So, types of crime, political crimes. This is types of state crime. Political crimes, crimes by the security forces. This is either the police or the military, so they kind of have taken action against citizens. Economic crimes. There's potentially one that's been discussed in the Houses of Parliament over the last couple of days. And social and cultural crimes, things like apartheid and so on, stuff like that as well. Let's look at our next one. Pollution. This can be air pollution, water pollution, deforestation, species extinction. And they're all examples of green crimes.
Lots of other good examples in the chat window, aren't there? Lots of good ones.
There were sort of like things like gas leaks, dumping toxic waste. All of these sort of like are good examples of green crime. Money laundering, insider trading, we put as financial crimes. I think we also had people talking about tax evasion, multinational tax evasion. Yeah. They would all be seen as types of financial crime as well, bribery and so on. And then our final one, cyber trespass, which is hacking. Basically, it's accessing cyberspace illegally. So accessing personal cyberspace illegally. Yeah, you can have all sorts of other things like cyberbullying, identity fraud, identity theft, identity fraud.
Absolutely.
So there's lots of different crimes that have increased as a process of globalization. And it's a question they quite commonly like to ask is, how has globalization changed the types of crime that we have. Okay, so we're going to move on now to a big reveal, and this is, again, we'll focus on types of crime. We're going to do 3 of these. What we will do is very slowly reveal some clues towards a type of crime. And what I would like you to do is identify them. For the first one, we're going to look at concepts that link into a type of crime. And then for the other 2, we're going to look at pieces of research. So our first one, what you need to do is put your answer in the chat window on the right-hand side once you guess what the type of crime is. So first of all, the growth of capitalism, particularly how capitalism. Sorry, capitalism.
Is that the Marxist? Sorry. Right.
No, that's. I think that's going to be the title of my Marxist novel, Capitalism. Yeah. The growth of capitalism. How has that increased different types of crime? Okay, so what type of crime might it have increased? Let's look at a second one. It's a crime that is transgressive.
That's a good key term, isn't it? Does everyone watching know what we mean by transgressive? Do you want to give us a quick explanation, Craig?
Yeah, it basically means it's crime that does not respect borders. Quite simply, it goes across international borders. It may not. It's not specific to one geographical area. Okay, let's look at our third clue. Can we guess the clue? Risk society. It's a bit of a tough one, this, because we've not given it away too early.
No one's got it yet.
What types of crime are transgressive, have increased because of the growth of capitalism, and is part of what Ulrich Beck suggested was risk society?
I think we have touched on the sort of thing that we might be there. Oh, Claudia's suggesting money laundering.
Money laundering's good guess. Let's look at our fourth clue. Usually where utilitarian crimes. Okay, eco-mafias should give you a little bit more of a clue here.
I had a suggestion, A-level maths. I didn't even know that was a crime, but we've.
I don't know. It depends. I studied A-level maths, and yeah, it's a crime. Well, certainly my answers were.
Yeah, I think there's a big clue.
Eco-mafias.
There's a big clue there, isn't there? Oh, Ninfrendo might be getting closer.
Okay, let's look at our fifth one. Primary and secondary crimes, particularly types of this crime.
Anyone got it? I think
we have had the correct response.
Love a round of applause for Ninfrendo, shall we? Yeah.
Yeah, they got it on 2 with 2 to go. It's green crimes. So the growth of capitalism has led to a spread of green crime because obviously, particularly in terms of global production and how things are transported, it has an impact on the environment. Of course, green crime is transgressive. Problems in one part of the world will impact on other sections of the world. It's linked into the idea of risk society. Eco-mafias, the role of organised crime in dumping waste. And getting these contracts to dump waste, and primary and secondary green crimes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at our next one. Now, this is more linked into theories, pieces of research. So, Ian Taylor. What type of crime might we be talking about with Ian Taylor? Who talked again about the growth of capitalism.
Yeah, there's lots of possibilities at this point, isn't there? I can think of a
few. There is. It's why we narrow it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh,
Merton.
That's an interesting
bit of a wild card there. Merton did acknowledge this type of crime.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily expect to encounter Merton when we're talking about globalization and crime, but I can see why he's here. Okay.
As I've said, Merton's strain theory is one of the most useful theories to know. Yeah. Steve Tombs. Might be getting more onto the idea now, sort of like what type of crime we're talking about. Tombs is one that usually gives it away. Steve Tombs does tend to focus on certain types of crime.
I got Box.
Let's have a look at our second one. Box. Another one.
Ooh. So this one stumped
Those tend
people.
to come from...
Oh, Nimfrendo's.
Yeah, and then Lauren Schneider. Crimes of the ruling class. A little bit more specific we need than that. It is Lauren Schneider. It is corporate crimes. And of course, corporate crimes have increased with the impact of globalization as well. Lots of different examples of that there. Let's look at our final one. So let's look at our first one. Kramer and Michalowski. What type of crime are we talking about if we were to discuss Kramer and Michalowski?
Incidentally, don't worry if some of these names you're not familiar with. You are now, and you can go and have a look at them. But not everyone will teach exactly the same studies and things. But they're all
That's right.
They're all worth investigating further. I think Grace might be answering the previous question there. Yeah, corporate, absolutely. Well done.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, very
Might be
good.
a slight delay there.
Yeah.
Let's look at our second one. Green and Ward. I do believe I've actually spelled that wrong. I think it may have an E after the green.
Oh well.
It's Penny Green and Tony Ward, I think.
Okay. Ringing any bells with anyone yet? Oh, Claudia's come in with a suggestion there.
Okay, so we've got somebody at 4. Okay, McLaughlin.
Oh, and
Layla's come in with a similar answer.
Yeah.
McLaughlin. That should start to give it away. Bauman.
Definitely.
Impacts of modernity. Or how modernity has increased this type of crime. And Cohen. Stan Cohen. We may look at.
I think we will talk a bit about that later on. Yeah.
We do have the answer.
Yeah, we have got
We
the
do
right
have the
answer.
answer. We have the answer at 4.
Yeah,
Pretty
very
good one
good.
there.
Well
For
done,
both
so
Claudia and Layla. It was state crimes. Yes, you got Kramer and Michalowski who talk about state corporate crime. Green and Ward who talk about state crime. McLaughlin, the different types of state crime. Bauman who talked about the impacts of modernity and how modernity had made state crime more, sorry to say the word, but more efficient. We would see larger scale genocide because of progress in terms of industrialization. And we've got Cohen who talks about techniques of neutralization and how the state gets away with it. Okay, back over to you, Duncan, for our next activity.
Okay, well, as we're in December, we're going to have a couple of festive activities tonight, as well as the usual ones. And this one's a very good one. You've got 20 seconds. It's a very fast melting snowman, I have to say. The snowman will melt in 20 seconds. And while it does melt, you've got 20 seconds to think about the answer to a question that's going to come up on the screen. And it's potentially quite a complex question. So obviously I'm asking for a reasonably simple answer. We can discuss it a bit more afterwards. Again, for a reasonably straightforward, speedy response. But it's a different aspect of globalization and crime from what we've touched on so far. It's another way that globalization may increase crime. And yes, one, global warming may be causing the snowman to melt so quickly, which is, of course, another crime in itself. So, explain a link between globalization and left realist explanations for crime and deviance in developed countries, so Western countries. Gosh, that snowman melts quickly, doesn't it?
That was quick.
It was really quick. 20 seconds is fast. And it's quite a lot to think about there, process really, in the question. A link between globalization and left realist explanations for crime and deviance in developed countries. So there is, I've deliberately made that a reasonably complex question there. So Nimfrendo has absolutely nailed it. Relative deprivation.
Yep.
Brilliant. What we need to do, of course, is make the link between globalization and relative deprivation, and that's the bit that really there wasn't time to do with the snowman melting. But obviously, if you were going to use this in an answer, you would need to make that link. And of course, globalization could be said to have led to, and Grace has also talked about relative deprivation, utilitarian crimes. Brilliant, Grace, well done. Also, we talked about how globalization can lead to unemployment, and particularly in industrialized areas of Western countries, because of work being done in developing countries with cheaper labour, and this could lead to, for example, unemployment in steel areas and coal mining areas and things like that. And there's lots of examples of that in the UK and the USA that people can refer to, and that then can lead to absolutely relative deprivation, marginalisation. Brilliant. So unemployment as a result of globalisation can lead to relative deprivation, marginalisation, and that in turn can lead to crime as described by left realists. So really well done to our people in the chat window, our live viewers. Some really good answers there. I'm going to hand back to Craig for the chili quiz.
Yeah, it's a nice one to explain that chain of analysis, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That globalization leads to unemployment, which leads to deprivation, which leads to crime. It's a really nice way of doing that. Our next one is a chili quiz. Maybe the snowman had been eating the chilies. Maybe that's why it melted so fast. Let's see. With the chili quiz, what we do is we ask you 3 levels of questions: a mild question, a spicy question, and a hot question. And you have to answer them within 30 seconds. Okay. So if we have a look at our questions. So first of all, we have who do we associate with the term McMafia? Obviously, sort of like a term that is when we talk about globalization is used. Which sociologist do you associate with the term risk society? I may have already mentioned this. And question number 3, which sociologist do we associate with primary and secondary green crimes? So this is, again, it's linking back to a little bit of research that you may have done, that you may have come across. 3 questions there. The first one obviously links in with organised crime. The second one in with a number of different types of crime, but particularly things like environmental crime and state crimes as well. And the third one obviously is green crime. So 30 seconds and try and go up with the 3 answers. Again, 1, 2, 3 on the side and your answer in the chat box on the right-hand side.
Thought you'd forgotten your bongos for a minute then, Craig. I've got my guitar out.
Definitely got them. Castells. Good guess. It's not Castells.
Is only slightly longer than 20 seconds, isn't it?
James Norton. James Norton, the term McMafia. Can we reveal it? Do we reveal all 3 at once? Or do we
I can't actually remember if they all come at once, but it doesn't matter. Yes, they do.
Okay, they do come up once. Okay, so the term, who do we associate with the term McMafia? It is Misha Glenny. Misha Glenny, who was a BBC reporter, he investigated sort of like how the Russian oligarchs had developed their own kind of private armies with after the fall of communism, how many of them took on former security agents who helped them to set up different networks, and it also led to the growth of organized crime. And it was a BBC TV series. Obviously, the book was not the same as the TV series. Spicy was Ulrich Beck. I can see why somebody's gone with Giddens there as well, because Giddens, we see Beck, Giddens, Bauman sort of like all in that kind of late modernist kind of idea. But it was Ulrich Beck who came up with the term risk society. And our hot question was Nigel South. Which sociologist do we associate with primary and secondary green crimes?
I think that's going to come up again shortly, those concepts. So Nigel South and primary and secondary green crimes is a good thing to know, I would say. Okay.
It's also good to be able to know the difference between the two.
Absolutely.
I think
we may go into that in a moment. So those of you who've joined us for several of these may have previously seen the bubble quiz. And we've got a Christmas version of the bubble quiz, which is the bauble quiz. And in every other respect, it is the same as the bubble quiz. So it's basically a multiple choice question, a couple of them. But instead of there just being one correct answer, all four could be right, none could be right, or any point in between those. So in the chat window, those of you watching live, you need to identify which of the suggested answers, if any, are correct. Okay. So we had a reference to this earlier, Stan Cohen, in relation to, well, I won't say more than that in case I give this away, but which of these are features of Cohen's spiral of denial? A, B, C, or D? So we've got, it's not how it looks. I did it for the family. It had to be this way. It didn't happen. It's quite tricky, but if I say too much about it, I might give it away. Are any of these right? Are all of them right? Anywhere in between that?
Just to correct myself, I said techniques of
Yes.
neutralization before, but that's Matzer and Sykes.
It is.
Sorry.
And that may well be a clue.
A little bit of confused.
That may well be to the clue to if possibly any of these aren't right. That might be a... Yeah. Anyone going to suggest this? Oh, Layla's coming with D, C, and A. That's looking good to me. Yeah, shall we have a look? And also Claudia's gone with A, C, and D, which is the same, isn't it? Just the other way around. Absolutely. So, well done. Very good responses. So, yes, this is Stan Cohen's theory about the way in which states seek to deny state crimes and respond to the accusation of having committed state crimes. You know, they'll say, yeah, that it didn't happen at all. This didn't happen. Then they might say it did happen, but it's not how it looks. Something else happened. And then it's like, well, it did happen, but we had to do this. There was no alternative. I did it for the family, that kind of thing, because it's very similar. Craig mentioned Matzer, the techniques of neutralization. It's a very similar concept, only that's for sort of individual crime rather than state crime. And some of the same sort of ideas are there, but also there's things like I did it for the family or whatever, which would be another example of a kind of technique of neutralization of an individual crime. But these are sort of spiral of denial of state crimes. Okay. So same idea again. Which of these are examples of secondary green crimes? So this concept's come up a few times. So we've got deforestation, violence against green protesters, bribery to avoid green regulations, and pollution. So are any of these examples of secondary green crimes? If so, how many? Which ones? I'll give you a minute or so to have a think about this. Claudia's suggesting B and C. Frendo's suggesting B and C. Grace has spotted C. Yeah. Brilliant. You're on fire this evening, you guys. Doing really, really well. Yes. So what is that difference? Deforestation and pollution, they are crimes directly against the environment. So that's primary green crime. The others are crimes that happen sort of in a secondary way as a result of issues to do with the environment. So, for example, committing crime of bribery isn't specifically against the environment, but if it's being done in order to try and avoid fines or convictions in relation to having breached environmental laws, then that becomes a secondary green crime. Okay, now we're on to our final activity of the day. We seem to have gone through it very speedily today. If you've got any questions, incidentally, because I know there's loads of concepts that we've talked about today. If you've got any questions about anything we've talked about, do feel free before we actually sign off, and we've got this activity and then we do our usual sort of sign off at the end, so there's plenty of time for you to type them. Do feel free to ask us. So our final activity, this is one that I like to bring up every so often. It hasn't always been hugely successful. Maybe tonight is the night where you're going to absolutely get it and work it out. It's a bit like Answer Smash on Richard Osman's House of Games. And when I say it's a bit like it, it's almost exactly the same. And we've got a picture and we've got a question. The picture has nothing to do with sociology, but the question, this one doesn't, but when you see this is just an example one, but when you see the real ones, the question is to do with sociology, globalization and crime. And you smash the answers together. So in this case, we've got an elephant, we've got Antarctica. So when we smash them together, we've got Elephantarctica. Okay, so that's the concept, that's the idea. So what you're trying to do is to come up with the equivalent of Elephantarctica by putting these two things together. So here's our first one, and I do think the image is a little bit unclear, so hopefully you can work it out from the other one. I might give a bit of a hint as to what the image is meant to be showing. But a Western way of life being imposed on the developing world. So this is really us thinking a bit more about what we mean by globalization, and particularly certain aspects of globalization which we think about in sociology. The picture, to sort of help us with this, maybe relates to kind of witchcraft and things of that sort, without using the actual word. That might help. What do we think? I mean, maybe focus on the sociology side of the equation for this one. A Western way of life being imposed on the developing world. What term might we use for that? We'll come across wherever you've talked about globalization in the course, and you won't have just talked about it in relation to crime, of course. It will have come up at other times. So Claudia has got the right-hand side of the thing absolutely spot on. It is cultural imperialism. And Ninfrendo's got the other half, occultural domination. So absolutely, it is the occult and cultural imperialism. The occultural imperialism. That's what it is. So between Claudia and Ninfrendo, we absolutely got it. So very well done. I think that's the hardest of them. Yeah.
I genuinely cannot believe that probably the same people in the audience didn't get Snow White collar crime, but got the occultural imperialism.
That's true.
You know, so.
I do. It's because people have got used to the activity now. I'm sure that's what it is.
I think so. Yeah.
That picture's familiar, so that might help us with the first half of this one. Focused on humans and human needs rather than the planet or animals. So this is something which we might talk about in relation to green crime and sort of ecologism generally, really, and green approaches. Generally, and this is an example of one, even though the first half is quite easy, where we're talking, it's very much how the word is spelt rather than necessarily how it is said, just to confuse matters more. But what do we think?
It tends to be a term that anybody who's doing psychology and sociology, I mean, it tends to be a term that's used in psychology a lot as well.
Yeah, that's true.
The second part.
Yes.
The second part.
I think the last one, it was, oh gosh, very close. Ninfrendo's very close. Oh, and Claudia's got the, pretty much got there, yes. So again, between Ninfrendo and Claudia and Grace, we have got there. It is anthropocentric is the answer to the sociology question. We've smashed it with elephant, so it's elephanthropocentric. Try and say that after a shandy. That's but elephanthropocentric. Okay, and I think we've got one.
I can't say that. I can't say that with a shandy or without a shandy, Duncan. You know.
We've got one more of these. You recognise who the image is of. Jobs being relocated to developing countries. So we talked about that earlier in relation to that kind of left realist angle on all this, but there is a key term that means that refers to that, and we've also got a famous person on the left hand side who you might recognise. He is still famous. I was thinking it's quite a long time since he played cricket,
yeah.
But he's on.
I think he's probably more famous for not playing cricket now.
Yeah, is he on like Top Gear and things like that, isn't he? And things like that.
I think he's on Top Gear.
Comedy programs and things like that. So people probably still know who he is. I should think.
League of Her Own.
Oh, Claudia's got the word. Brilliant! It is fantastic. Can we link it with? Can we smash it with the person? Freddie Flint offshoring. Well done, Ninfrendo. So between Claudia and Ninfrendo again, we have got there. I think that's the most successful the word smash has been, and I think that is thanks to some very, very astute members of the live audience there. So very well done with that. That was excellent. There is lots of additional support available from tutor to you for crime and deviance. If you use your smartphone and scan that little QR code there on the screen, there's loads of study notes. We've got lots and lots of resources, the exam skills workbook. There's the revision guide. There has been a question in the chat window, where's Jim, because we miss his jokes, and I agree, we're missing Jim's jokes too. Absolutely. And there are other resources there as well, flashcards and all sorts, so do go and have a look, especially if you've got some mocks coming up and things like that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the studio. And I think all that remains to say is that, well done everyone watching live. Absolutely brilliant answers. Really impressed with that.
Some really good answers, and I'm absolutely flabbergasted that the word smash, everybody is getting it like that now.
Very impressive.
Those first few weeks we did word smash. We were doing really simple ones. People couldn't get them. Now,
Freddie Flint offshoring. The cultural imperialism. It's very impressive. Yeah.
If any of the exam boards are watching, get word smash on the test. Everyone will fly through.
Absolutely. So I think this time next week, same time, same place, we will be looking at crime prevention. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. So if you want to come and join us for that, it will be great to see you. And then the following week, we'll be having some Christmas fun, but very much focusing on things that you may have been covering this term, but not just crime. For the Christmas one, we'll look at some other sociology topics as well. And Claudia's just started crime prevention in lesson today. We have tried to time our sessions broadly with what we reckon you might be doing at school or college, and I think we've done pretty well with that, judging from comments in the chat window. So that's been handy. So thank you very much for joining us. Thanks very much, Craig. We will see you.
Thanks, Duncan. Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Well done. Bye-bye.